ceasefire now just basically means we would like to welcome another attack of October 7th. This is the only thing it means. Hamas welcomed this decision of the UN.
But food, fuel, water are scarce and disease is rampant. That's why they're calling for the humanitarian ceasefire.
Well, obviously there is humanitarian aid that gets into the Gaza Strip, but unfortunately Hamas is taking over this humanitarian aid. So even for the sake of the Palestinians, it's better for Israel to finish the job.
But do you accept that you are losing international support by the day? Not for what you're trying to do, but the way that you're doing it?
Absolutely not. I think, first of all, American support is incredible. You can see just now, I mean, it was American decision to veto a UN resolution for ceasefire, and you can see the UK support. I've been ambassador to the UK. I've never seen more leaders from the UK coming to Israel. I just went with David Cameron to see in Kibbutz Be'eri the leftovers of Hamas massacre.
Yeah.
So you can see.
But your most powerful ally.
That the world is supporting Israel.
Your most powerful ally, the President of the United States, said also a few hours ago, talking about support for Israel, you are starting to lose that support by indiscriminate bombing. He is accusing Israel of indiscriminate bombing.
So Biden supports Israel's aim of this war to bring back the hostages. And I carry this dog tag to remind everyone we still have 137 innocent people in the Gaza Strip. The United States, including the president, agrees that the Gaza Strip cannot carry on with Hamas control. So there is only one way to achieve that, which is to uproot the terror infrastructure that Hamas built. Unfortunately, some of that is embedded in population. So Israel is doing everything to prevent casualties among civilians.
American presidents choose their words very carefully on this issue. Indiscriminate means random, without care. He is saying, you are bombing Gaza without care.
Absolutely not. And you know what? Let's just see history. Americans were fighting ISIS in Mosul. You had much more people that got killed in Mosul proportionally than the people in Gaza. And another thing, when you're thinking about the amount of efforts Israel is doing, we're talking about designated places to the Palestinians to hide. We're talking about humanitarian aid. Do you remember, by the way, do you remember a case?
Just on this point,
Mark, I'm asking you a question. Do you remember a case that any country in the world created humanitarian corridor to the enemy? I don't remember you helping Nazi Germany during the war, and I don't remember Americans helping Japanese during the Second World War.
The point I'm trying to make.
Put it in proportions.
Right. The point I'm trying to make is that the impression, even in the United States and in the White House, is that in your pursuit of Hamas, you're hitting targets even though you know civilians will be killed.
Absolutely not.
But that's what indiscriminate means, and that's what Joe Biden is saying.
I can tell you what we do. I respect Joe Biden, the President of the United States. I respect the American support. But if there is one thing I protect, is IDF's actions at the moment. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because on October 7th, Israel was traumatized by the worst massacre Israel experienced since the Holocaust.
Yeah, they get why you're doing it. The questions I'm asking you about is how you're doing it. So now the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, says the end of Hamas is near. How near?
So I'm not sitting now in the war room, so I cannot tell you how much time we have left to the war. But I know that as long as our hostages are still there, and I know that as long as Hamas is still firing rockets on our cities, and we're talking about over 11,000 rockets on Israeli cities in the last few weeks.
Well, this is the point. This is the point.
We
the
need
truth
to
is,
stop that.
It's believed that 3 of Hamas's 5 brigades are still intact. The head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, is still in Gaza at large. So the destruction of Hamas does seem some way off. How long will it take? Is it going to take weeks? Is it going to take months? How long will it take?
First of all, I really believe this is a matter of more than a few weeks. So we need time for this. And as you said, there is still a lot of work to do.
Here's my point. If it costs 18,000 lives to kill what you say is 7,000 Hamas terrorists so far, how many civilians will have to die to kill all 25 to 30,000 Hamas fighters in Gaza?
I have a good answer. If Hamas wants to surrender now and to bring back our hostages, no civilian in Gaza will get killed.
Right, but if they don't surrender, The reality confronting Israel is that you're going to have to carry on, you're going to have to, as you say, wipe out Hamas. Do you accept that that could mean tens of thousands more civilians dying in the process?
It's not like we want civilians to get killed. We were caught into this war not because Israel woke up in the morning and started to attacking the people of Gaza. Israel woke up into October 7th and they were brutally murdered by people that worked in their houses. So Israel woke up in the morning and we realized that on the other side there are people that want to commit a genocide to the Jewish people. I think the Jewish people have learned something from the Holocaust.
The Americans say there's a gap between what you're promising in protecting civilians and what is happening on the ground. More than twice as many children have died in Gaza since October the 7th than in all the conflicts worldwide last year. How can that be justified?
I cannot justify any death or any loss of life. This is not the idea. The idea is to justify our duty to our children.
Isn't the danger that, as Lloyd Austin, US Defense Secretary, says, you're in danger of turning a tactical victory into a strategic defeat? In other words, so many youths are going to be radicalized that they continue to fight against Israel.
Actually, the opposite, and I'm so pleased that you're asking this, because 2005 was the day that Israel left the Gaza Strip in order to give the Palestinians an opportunity to build a safe haven next to the sea. Gaza could have been a beautiful place, having industrial areas, having hotels and beautiful, beautiful places. What Hamas turned this place in few months was to a place that uses his people as human shields, takes all the money from Iran, Qatar, and the humanitarian aid it receives to build underground terror city that cost him over $300 million, that could have made a great city, but instead of that, he preferred to build a terror city.
So, okay, you eradicate Hamas. There's a question about whether you can do that, eradicate an ideology.
We have no question, by the way. We know we can do it.
All right. Well, you get rid of Hamas. What happens post-Hamas in Gaza? What happens to 2 million people in Gaza? What do you think should happen?
So I think the Israeli government's vision at the moment is, in order to have a better future both to the Palestinians and to the Israelis, Gaza must be demilitarized and Gaza must be de-radicalized. So this is the two things, the two pillars. I always love to compare it to the Marshall Plan.
But with under Israeli occupation?
Obviously, we're not interested to govern the Palestinians, but we are interested to make sure that Gaza won't become another terror hub.
But
so
how?
We will demilitarize Gaza.
Right.
We will demilitarize Gaza because no one else volunteers to do that, by the way.
And then who is in Gaza?
And we believe that together with our allies and with the moderate Arab countries, we can build a better future. But let me tell you my own insight. If education won't be addressed in Gaza, we will end up having another terror organization with a different name.
What do you mean, education?
It means when you had the Marshall Plan after the Second World War, there were two countries that were totally radical. The German society after the Nazi regime and Japan during the war. Those two societies turn out to be a good Western countries that everyone loves to.
But I don't quite know what you mean, education in Gaza. Who are you going to educate? What do you want to?
I think part, at the moment, under the UN name, the UNRWA schools are becoming terror schools.
So you're talking about re-educating the population?
If you have the UN involvement, then forget about refugee camps. Why should they be refugees after 70 years of having independent life? They could have built their own life, but they didn't.
But re-education is the kind of, you think of China, and you think of...
Absolutely not. This is what you did.
Camps
this is what you did in Nazi Germany. This is what the
Muslim
British
Uyghurs and so forth.
You're not learning from your own history. In this residence that you came to, there is a Churchill painting. There is one thing we learned from Churchill's experience, fighting Chamberlain's policy, is the fact you cannot appease pure evil. So he knew you cannot negotiate with Hitler. We know we cannot negotiate with Hamas. It means we need to have a better future for the Palestinians. And in order to achieve that, you need to do what you did.
Is there still a chance for a two-state solution?
I think it's about time for the world to realize the Oslo paradigm failed on the 7th of October, and we need to build a new one. And in order to build a new one...
Does that new one include the Palestinians living in a state of their own? Is that what it includes?
I think the biggest question is what type of Palestinians are on the other side. This is what Israel realized
do they
on
have a
7th of
state,
October.
though?
The answer is absolutely no, and I'll tell you why.
Well, then how
because
can
at
there
the
be
moment,
peace? And
no,
how can
I
there
will
be peace
answer to you.
in
The reason there is no peace
Israel?
is because the
How
Palestinians.
can, without offering
Mark,
a state to Palestine, how
Mark,
can there be peace in Israel?
Israel knows today, and the world should know now, the reason the Oslo Accords failed is because the Palestinians never wanted to have a state next to Israel. They want to have a state from the river to the sea.
So the two-state solution is dead.
Why are you obsessed with a formula that never worked, that created these radical people in the other side? Why are you obsessed with that?